Today's subject, we're here to talk about DaXtra and how we add value for businesses under financial strain. My name is Adrian Farthing. I've worked for DaXtra for about a year and a half. During my career, I've worked for recruitment technology companies and helped train both small startups and large global enterprise recruitment teams how to use the best, how to get the best out of the recruitment technology. Dave.
Hi there, guys. My name's David Mercer. Really excited to kick off our first of a three-part series of webinars today. I've been working with DaXtra in the rec tech space for approaching 5 years now. Looking forward to sharing some of our thoughts with you today. In the latter part of this session, I'll be taking you through a very short presentation of our solution and how this differs from a native CRM search and current search practices. But for now, I'll hand back over to Aid, who's going to kick off this session now.
Great, thanks, Dave. And just one other piece of housekeeping as well. You can minimise the video if you want to see the presentation full screen. I wouldn't blame you if you didn't want to see our faces for the entire next 30 minutes. All right. So into the webinar. Look, it's definitely unprecedented times at the moment. It seems that no industry, company, or individual is exempt. And for owners of recruitment businesses and recruitment teams, it's certainly been a time to look at the business model, certainly assess the technology you have at the moment, specifically the recruitment technology, figure out what's working for you, where you can certainly make cost savings, but also to look to the future and to look at for those tools that are going to help you and help your recruitment teams get back up to speed as quickly as possible as the economy starts to turn again. And certainly, DaXtra has been working with in this particular space and helping recruitment companies be really effective and save time and being efficient in the way that they source candidates. So this is a three-part webinar series. Today, our first part is to really focus on DaXtra Search and how we perhaps differ from some of the built-in CRM searches you may be using today. And in part two and part three, we'll be looking at more specifically Boolean searching and why we believe it belongs in the past. And then lastly, how to identify the best candidates quickly. If you haven't heard of DaXtra before, we're a global recruitment technology business founded in 2002. And our specific focus on our software has been built from natural language processing, machine intelligence and AI, and also process automation as well. So one of the unique differentiating factors about DaXtra is that we're able to work and look at data within documents, predominantly CVs if you like, and identify the unique skills and attributes of candidates and how they write about themselves. And I'm sure you've seen all sorts of examples of how candidates present themselves in the CVs. So DaXtra have been doing that, and we do that in over 40 different languages. We can identify over 150 pieces of information. And to date, the volume, we're actually processing something like 100 million CVs every single month. And what that's allowed us to do is to plug in our machine learning over that data and help us identify and score candidates' attributes, no matter how they write about themselves in the CV, and being able to throw a query over the local database where the local CRM that you're using to identify the best candidates really, really effectively and really quickly, no matter how well trained the recruiter is using the CRM, but also not only looking at the local CRM, but be really efficient in the way that recruiters can then search over external sources of candidates as well, be that job boards or social media platforms as well. So into part one of the webinar series, and what we're going to focus on today is how DaXtra really can differ from a native built-in CRM search. So firstly, there's lots of CRMs in the market. Here are some examples of some great ATS and CRM platforms. You may have be using them now. You may have used them in the past. They're really great at managing your sales and recruitment processes, be that managing leads, onboarding new customers, managing the recruitment process from the vacancy to search to shortlist to placement, to onboarding and then to payroll. And they're great. They're all working their own way. But of course, they always need an investment in training and users. And we do find from time to time, and I've worked with a number of CRM platforms and at CRM companies and trained recruitment teams as well. And it is really an investment in training, and there are some challenges when it comes to usability and searching and finding candidates really effectively. And this is where DaXtra has really honed our experience in the last 18 years. And we've built a great search tool that really complements the CRMs to help access that data you have on candidates and identify candidates really quickly. So if I could summarize or look at the recruiters I've trained in the past, of course you have more junior recruiters, but you have the more experienced recruiter. And if I could focus on that recruiter, and if you can imagine this guy's a bit of a dinosaur like me. He's been working in the industry for a number of years. He's experienced in what he does, or so he says. And he's really well trained how to use his recruitment database. He loves it. He meticulously reviews every candidate that comes in, codes them specifically to their unique skills, their industry, their experience. And so it really helps them, by doing that, helps them use the CRM or the native ATS to find those candidates. And because he's looked at them, or the recruiters looked at them, they've categorized them in the way, saved the favorite list. Really good at black belt, really well experienced Boolean searcher, despite how complicated that can be. And by using the attributes of the candidates, refining lists, and then running searches over those CVs to get to the best candidates as best as we can, because he knows there's great candidates in his database that he's worked with over the many years. But that doesn't work all the time. And there's some frustrations even the most experienced recruiter will have with candidate search. The first I hear most of the time is duplicate and out-of-date candidate records. Maybe CVs aren't making their way into the database and not necessarily updated properly. It relies on individuals to use the system properly and identify existing candidate records. DaXtra has a tool called DaXtra Capture that automates that whole process for recruitment businesses. So that's something we do help with, but that's not the focus today. But despite that, there are still challenges with coding. I'm not saying coding is a bad thing. I've seen skill coding work really, really well. But when it comes to users coding candidates, they need to be experienced, they need to be well trained, they need to know the industry, they need to be able to spot the skills or the attributes within the CV. And that takes time. It takes time to do that. And as recruiters, we want to be having better conversations with our candidates and customers, not worrying about data. And what that can lead to is that even with the best Boolean search in a database, you can find that the results come back with unsuitable candidates. You're looking at candidates where the skills you're searching for are not the current skills of the candidate. So therefore, it's taking a long time to work through the CRM, working through those results and spotting those candidates to shortlist. And that just takes too much time. And again, it can tend to lead to recruiters ignoring the local data and then going to job boards and spending their time outside of the CRM. And that can be, and it's not expensive, but you're not leveraging your own data. And again, job board candidates are sometimes already existing in the database. So I'm constantly chastised by my marketing manager for paying to candidates that we already know about. So they're the common challenges. I couldn't really boil that down to three areas. It's skill coding or tagging and attributes, however you call it in your business. Boolean free text searching and searching across external job boards. And then breaking that down a little bit, skill coding, as I mentioned, there are inconsistencies in the process. It relies on recruiters to be well trained. So there's an investment in training in the CRM. It needs constantly revisiting. And of course, as new codes come into, skills come into the market, those codes need to be added to the database. Or if you bring in a new desk and you start focusing on another sector, then again, you need to administer the database effectively, and someone needs to be trained into doing so. Secondly, Boolean and free text searching. Again, it can work for you, but yeah, again, you need to understand the industry terms. You need to remember how candidates write about themselves. And you think about some of the technical skills in the market, they can be written in multiple different ways across the CV. And so it's easy to make mistakes and miss great candidates if you've not constructed your search correctly. And again, there are tools in the market to help you to build those searches. But the problem with them, and the underlying problem with Boolean, is there's no understanding of concept, no concept of context within the CV. So, for example, a candidate may write about the skill or the term Oracle. So Oracle can be a skill. It can be mentioned in the job title as Oracle DBA, for example. It may be a qualification, some sort of Oracle qualification the candidate's received, or it could be the company. So you may say, I've worked for Oracle in the past. So when you're searching for Oracle in your Boolean search, it's not going to know the difference between the two. Also, it's not going to tell you how many years experience that candidate has at Oracle. It might be that they've written Oracle in their CV in their old work history 4 or 5 years ago, and that's no longer their current level of interest. Or another example, it could be a French speaker. You can't actually tell with Boolean whether that is an excellent, a native French speaker or someone that has studied French, or whether someone has worked for French Connection, for example. So there are challenges with Boolean, and that leads to time lost working through search results, and often it can be over an hour a day lost to searching in an inefficient way when you're searching not only your local database but external job boards as well. And of course, job boards is time consuming. We're expecting more candidates to be on job boards as there's going to be more actively candidates in the market now. But again, you are starting to work outside your CRM. You need to learn how those job boards work, how to effectively search on them, and again, ignore the database at your peril. There's great candidates in there. Just need better tools and often occasions to find those candidates. So they're the common challenges we find with local CRM search. So handing over to David, how's DaXtra overcome some of these challenges?
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks for taking us through that, Aid. And guys, we have a chat column window open. So if there's anything in there that you agreed with, anything you disagreed with that Adrian's just been through, or anything else you wanted to add in, feel free to pop it in the chat. And if we get time, we can address them towards the end as well. But yeah, what I wanted to very quickly take you through is just our answer to that, how we evolved and solved some of those challenges, which is what our solutions have been built upon. Now, what I'm going to do is to take you through a very short demonstration and actually give you a glimpse of what our products can do. And to do that, I wanted to take you through 2 different methods of constructing a query and how you might do that. We are going to go into a deeper dive in parts 2 and 3 in the coming weeks, but this is just to give you an overview of how we construct searches and queries differently to how you might do it natively or how you currently do that. So first of all, what I'm going to take you through is a match. Now, at DaXtra, we certainly think matching is the future. No longer should you have to train consultants, on how to use complex Boolean, how to code candidates. People expect, especially new generations coming into work that have had technology at their fingertips all their life, they expect the tech to do that for you. So that's what we've done, is that you can just take a job description, press a button, and build a query out off the back of that. So that's going to be the first method I'm going to take you through. But of course, I understand that you might not always have a job description, or perhaps you do have a job description, but it hasn't been written very well, perhaps. I'm sure you've experienced that. So there is a way to search as well. So I'm going to take you through those two examples, but we're going to kick off with a match. And again, please raise any questions in the Q&A if you've got any. So to kick off, obviously, I would normally be plugged into your own database, but because I haven't got that set up, I'm using a standalone environment. I'm actually going to use a job description text that I have here. So I'm just going to copy this text from this job description, which has skills, a job title, salary information, etc., all the things you'd expect as part of a job description. And I can then actually paste that directly into our search query box here, and it's going to build a query off the back of this using our natural language processing here. So you can see here we pulled out the job title, DevOps Engineer. There was no location in this job description, but of course location can be extracted, or you can enter that in manually. I'm going to edit the years of experience. I'm going to set this to any experience, so I get a broad range of results coming back. And then you'll see we've pulled out all of the skills from the job description. But what we also do is we then show you, and you can see some of our machine learning at work here, is we find all the expansions, all the synonyms or aliases that relate to that term. So the benefit of this is that no matter how the candidates have written and described their skill sets on their CVs, we're able to find them and bring them all back, all the relevant candidates back in the results. Again, saving you time. I'm going to bring in a couple of external sources. Adrian mentioned that's important as well, searching over your local database and also your external sources of candidates. So I've got a few random ones here. Of course, the ones that you have subscriptions for, you'd be able to enter in. And also you can then set up individual filters for these job boards as well as your own local data. Again, we're not saying get rid of your CRM filters. They're very important for setting the parameters, but it's about setting the parameters of your search and then using our intelligent search tools to then search over the CV data. We've got some questions coming in. Oops, I pressed the wrong button there. Bring that back. So I've run my search, and I've brought back results from all different locations, my local database and external sources. And from here, I can then select the ones I want to look at, compare, and then shortlist against a role or hot list. So a couple of questions that have come in. One from Simon: can you edit the search terms in the search criteria? Yes, you can. I'm going to show you that shortly when I come and show you a match. Yes, and then a question from Raphael, which I'll come back to towards the end after I've shown you this. Okay. So that was a match query. I'm now going to take you through and show you a search query. Just need to navigate the slide. Technology working at its best. Aid, could you forward the slide for me, please?
Yeah. Got it.
And it's still showing the match. Oh no, there we go. Perfect. Thank you. So now I'm going to take a different approach, and I'm actually going to type in the query myself. So again, mentioned you might not have a job description. Now I've typed in the term project. And what that's done is, because we categorize and index this information and understand what's been written in the CV so well, we're able to understand where project might have appeared as a skill within a CV, where project appears as a job title, project manager in this case, or as a qualification. That extends out to languages and industries. So whatever term you're typing in, you can categorize it to make sure you're actually bringing back the relevant terms. I'm going to select project manager as a job title. Now what you can see here again is some of our machine learning coming into play again. So we've actually analyzed all the data that you have in your database to suggest what skills do my project managers have, or what other job titles might they have, or what companies have they worked for. And again, we're able to break that down and show this to the end user to make it a lot easier to construct this search. One of the things Adrian mentioned is you might not know all your subject matter. Again, we're able to suggest that based on the data that you already have. to help you construct these search easily. So let's bring in an additional skill into this query. So, a project manager that has used agile methodology. And what you can see here, again, I'll get into some of the mechanics another time, but you can see, again, we've expanded these out to other variations that we've seen these terms written within CVs. You can also add in your own additional terms here. So I might want to search for agile or Scrum, for example. And again, we're bringing that in, expanding that search out. So you're getting a broad range of relevant candidates. And again, just like before, I can bring in my job boards, construct my search and start that searching now. And it's going to use the same algorithms as before. So it's a slightly different initial query. Before we had a match that was built off a job description. This time we've actually built the search query ourselves, but then it's using the same ranking techniques, the same analysis to then return those results ready for me to shortlist.
So we've got a question on ranking here, actually. So good time to answer from Connor. Do you dupe the job board results? Oh, sorry, there's one before that in terms of ranking.
So yeah, so how are the results sorted? Are they sequenced based on the best match? Yes. So really good question. Aid, if you could just forward the slide for me, it's not letting me there. Really great question, and that's actually going to come into play in far more detail in part 3, when we go through how we actually rank the candidates. But effectively, and it leads me nicely onto this slide, it's based on the context of the CV. So it's not the repetition of a term that's been repeated or that the word project manager appears. It's understanding how experienced are they, and ranking the candidates based on that information. So again, I don't want to give too much away. We'll save some of that for part 3, but really good question. A few more questions coming in, so hopefully we'll get back and give them a chance to address those towards the end. But just to wrap up my section here, I've highlighted a number of the techniques that I used throughout that process, throughout that demonstration. So to take you through these quickly, we started with an auto match. And the benefit of that is it creates the query based exactly off the job spec. So it means that the candidates you're returning are relevant exactly to that role. And it's an easy way to create that search. We also did natural language searching, which was the second query I ran. And that's an easy way of searching without the need to learn Boolean or learn coding, or certainly less training around those elements as well. It's suggesting and it's helping you create that search yourself. You saw some term suggestion and term expansion. Again, the suggestion is helping you, especially if you've perhaps, maybe this is quite relevant in the current time, you might have changed roles slightly, slightly different data subjects that you're working in. Perhaps you're a brand new graduate recruiter. And it's about suggesting those terms that you might not know to make sure you're actually returning the right results, and then expanding them out into the aliases, synonyms, and suggestions that we've learned. Ranking, we've covered briefly there. And of course, job boards. So job boards are certainly key. And I think, Aid, you'd agree with me, in the coming weeks and months, when candidates perhaps applying to new roles, we're imagining that they're going to be going to job boards first. Perhaps your organic growth within your own database may have slowed down due to the COVID situation. So it's about making sure you've got all the data sources at your fingertips, easily searchable, so that you can then find the best candidates and put your best foot forward in the coming weeks and months. So I'm going to hand back over to Aid now, who's going to wrap this up, and then we should have time for a few more questions at the end. Aid, thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Great demo, by the way. Really good to see some of the key parts, what we know DaXtra Search focuses on. And I think, if you go back to the example of the experienced recruiter who really knows the database, obviously you're not going to be able to replicate that person across the business. And there's some really nice tools in DaXtra Search in terms of the natural language, being able to identify some of the other, never to actually miss a candidate. And that's an important thing, not to miss candidate, not to have candidates missed within the search result, but have a great list of candidates that you can get to really quickly. And especially whether you are an experienced recruiter or a new recruiter, I talk a lot to agencies, and they talk about the help getting new recruiters sticky to the business, onboarding them, training them up quickly, but getting them successful really, really quickly. And the faster you can get them onboarded and using the tools and searching is going to make them more successful. So looking to the future, really, it's being having tools which are going to help you be efficient and agile and really quick at saving you time, so you can spend more time speaking to candidates rather than trying to pick them out of a search result. So, but also it's maximizing your current assets, being able to we often find that the day we switch DaXtra Search on, recruiters are finding candidates that didn't even know existed in their databases and making placements straight off the bat. So that you've got that investment in your own data. DaXtra Search can really help you identify those candidates and find them. And of course, you may be doing things, especially in the new environment with fewer people. There may be people on the bench waiting to come back. But certainly DaXtra Search is one of those really key tools that's going to help you save time and perhaps do more with less people. So I think we've got time. Lots of questions flying in, actually, Dave. So thanks everyone for listening. We'll take some questions if we can.
Yeah, so a few great ones to come through. But unfortunately, we're not going to get to answer everyone's. But a question from Connor was, does it dedupe against the job board results against candidates that already exist in your CRM? So yes, the answer to that is yes. We're able to, provided there's enough information, obviously, you need to have names and contact details. If the candidate has already been loaded through our systems, we're able to then identify that they already exist within your CRM, and we can advise when they were downloaded and who they were downloaded by. And that can obviously help with marketing.
Great cost saving as well, as you don't have to pay for the same candidate twice.
Exactly right. Right. But also it makes sure if you do have them in your database, but they were added 3 years ago, then probably you want the more up-to-date information and you do want to download it from the job board. So it just gives you that visibility and control. Anything else? Oh God, they're coming in fast. One from S Stamp here is, can you distinguish when you're creating a search? I'll paraphrase this, so sorry if it's not exactly as you said. Can you distinguish between ands and ors when you're creating your search? Again, yes, you can do that. In fact, part 2, we're going to be taking a closer look at our searching versus Boolean string methods. So I think we can answer that in a bit more detail, but yes, you can certainly do that, and I can show you that next time. One that's come in from Daryl. Aid, I'll let you answer this one, is, are you always searching over the latest CV? And it's a 2-part question. What about multiple CVs?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, happy to field that one. Look, we integrate with lots of leading CRM companies out there. We do that via their API. What we do, we set up our integration, and we're constantly listening for new candidates that are added to the database, or candidates that are updated. So as soon as that CV hits the candidate record, we're picking that up. We're running that CV through our parsing to build up this detailed view of the candidate, which allows DaXtra Search to then go and search and match against. So yeah, any new candidate, creator updated gets indexed. But also when it comes to additional documents, we're really, really flexible, and that's one of the generally one of the limitations of a CRM is looking at just one document type. Whereas DaXtra can be incredibly flexible around what we do. For one of our international exec search firms is that they create a candidate brief on a written candidate brief about their candidate, as well as having their candidate on a CV on record. And when they're running a search, they want to search across both documents and then return results, so they're making sure they're not missing anyone there. So yeah, hugely flexible about how we set up DaXtra to make sure we're indexing the right documents for you, so you can find those candidates.
Brilliant, thanks, Aid. I think we've just got time for one more. A question from Fred Leeming. Does your system recognize that different businesses use different seniority titles when taking into account experience and ranking? And it's a 2-parter. Can you match from CV to CV? So on that final one, yes, we can do jobs to CV, which as I showed you just now. You can do CV to CV to find similar candidates based on their skills and qualifications. And you can also do CV back to job. So you can match in all those different directions. Again, the question on the ranking will be part 3 in a few weeks' time. But yes, that certainly gets taken into account. But also we're looking at more than just the titles. We're actually looking at what we read and how a human would read and understand that CV. Don't want to give too much away, otherwise no one will come to part 3. So yeah, I'll leave you on that cliffhanger. Please tune in.
And then there's one I couldn't quite see. I'm only seeing, like, I haven't got the chat box. Someone asking if we've got parsing off the back end of DaXtra Search. Yeah, absolutely. We've got our DaXtra Capture that sits behind DaXtra Search. So you want to find candidates on job boards, you want to add them to the database and shortlist them. That comes through our DaXtra Capture tool, which is incredibly sophisticated, robotic process automation tool. Do get in touch with us. We're all happy to set up a demo or conversation on that. We may even do another webinar specifically on DaXtra Capture in the future. But for now, thanks everyone for joining in. As Dave mentioned, we'll be looking at Boolean searches and more specifically about DaXtra and how we've advanced that to make sure we're identifying candidates, and then we're looking at ranking in part 3. So thanks again. Our contact details on the screen. Pleasure to speak to you today, and thanks for joining us.
Cool. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.